Alright guys, the blockbuster fall of freaking huge notable country releases continues. This time with Miranda Lambert, who by all accounts has been probably publicly the queen of country music for the past decade. And that's not meant to stir up any fights with the Carrie Underwood fans, nor, Miranda attracts some really angry people sometimes. So if you're a Carrie fan that hates Miranda, if you're a Blake fan or a Shefani fan that hates Miranda, just don't stir stuff up. We don't need all that fighting in the comments. We're here to talk about the music, and Miranda has her 7th album out now called Wildcard, and there's a ton to talk about with it. Now, the last album we got from Miranda was actually a double album called The Weight of These Wings, and this was her first release after her extremely high-profile breakup with Blake Shelton. The Weight of These Wings was kind of messy and sprawling and pensive and beautiful, and often had gorgeous songs, the most popular of which was probably Tin Man. But it wasn't this big, fiery breakup album with woman-scorned anthems and kind of angry tirades against an ex at all. It was really sensitive, really feeling, really quiet. Wildcard, meanwhile, finds her in a totally different place. There's a lot more sass.
My sister got knocked up in a truck at the 7-Eleven.
This is a much more concise record, and it's still not the big breakup album full of breakup songs. I think it reflects a different kind of Miranda. She's remarried now. She's living in New York City with her husband Brendan, who's a police officer. And you get the sense that Miranda has moved on from her relationship with Blake Shelton. Because on this album, you get a real balance of perspective. Unlike just the early career Miranda, where we got tons of songs like Gunpowder and Lead and Kerosene and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend that were just so fiery, and unlike kind of second phase Miranda, where we got a lot more songs like Over You and The House That Built Me that were a lot more just kind of sensitive singer-songwriter songs, this album really melds those two styles, and I think we get a really balanced album that's very mature. There's a ton of self-acceptance that Miranda has taken on, and she's really owning her own passion, her tendency to fall in love quickly, and the ways that leads her down very good and very bad paths. And for me, that honesty has always made Miranda Lambert such an interesting artist. And all of her albums, they really always do feel like albums. Wildcard is no different in that respect. This is a really cohesive album. It's got a new producer. She's working with Jay Joyce, who I am really a big fan of a lot of times. He works with Eric Church, with Brothers Osborne. He's really known for having a kind of scuzzier, rockier vibe to the way that he produces people. And with Miranda, it's definitely a big switch up. Her longtime collaborator, Frank Liddell, he's not involved on this record. And so it's definitely a different sound for her. It's moodier, it's rockier, and that sometimes works, and to me it sometimes doesn't. But we'll talk more about that in a second. Now, much like the cover of this record, which features Miranda in kind of pastel, floral jacket and dress, but also in really harsh, kind of naughty fishnet stockings, you get moments on this album where she's being really sweet, and you get moments where she's being really naughty. And I think Miranda walks that line nicely. I never get the sense that she's writing herself into a corner. She's never being too humorous. She's never being too self-loathing. I think her being a co-writer on all these songs really gives the album a cohesiveness and a nuance and a complexity that makes it really strong. The collaborators all through this record are some really excellent songwriters in Nashville. You got Natalie Hemby and Luke Dick. You've got the Love Junkies, otherwise known as Hillary Lindsay, Liz Rose, and Lori McKenna. You guys know how I feel about Lori McKenna. You've even got some names like John Randall and Jack Ingram in here as well. If this record has a thesis statement, I would say that it comes on the song Settling Down, where Miranda is wondering if she is the type of girl that could really just be someone that is happy to be at home, or if she needs the escape of the road and the darkness of bars. Is happiness on the highway, or is it parked on a driveway, she asks. She's one part wild child and another part homing pigeon. And shout out to the writers of this song, Natalie Hemby, Luke Dick, and her, for putting pigeon in a chorus. I love that, as someone that is pigeon-toed. Miranda Lambert has a really interesting certainty that she's uncertain of what kind of person that she is. But on a lot of this album, she's just being a lot more humorous. White Trash is the opener. It's probably my least favorite song on the record. I find the kind of lack of variety in the vocal really monotonous to listen to. That's one thing I don't love when Miranda does it, when she just kind of has verses that don't flow a lot. I think it hides the fact that she inflects so well. She's really good at delivery, so verses that have a lot of movement, I think suit her much better. That's also true of the song Pretty Bitchin', where I think the lyrics are really fun and good, and I think it's funny to hear Miranda just kind of be happy about life, but I really hate the production choice to layer her vocal or whatever they kind of did. Not great to me. In the humorous realm, though, I freaking love the collaboration with Maren Morris called Way Too Pretty for Prison. That song is really, really great. It's almost like a complete funny switch up of something like Goodbye Earl or Two Black Cadillacs, where these girls are like, I'd kill you, but we're too pretty for prison. And the whole bridge where they're just like talking about how there would be a waxing situation if they were in prison. I mean, it got a real chuckle out of me. But the biggest laugh in the album, definitely still for me, is the song Locomotive, which was out early. I mean, half this album was released before the whole album came out. And I love this song because Miranda mentions that her hubby's inside frying chicken. And then at the end of the chorus, she says, "Ooh, he gives me wings." And you get this sense that she is in a rapturous love, and also he's providing her with chicken. It is, to me, just the funniest, dumbest line. I love that it exists. And that song rocks. I mean, that song, of all the kind of rock moments, Locomotive, to me, is by far the most successful on this record. But even though I like a lot of the humor, for me, it's the more sensitive songs that I really am drawn to. Bluebird Rules. It's almost a mission statement for Miranda Lambert as an artist. And it's interesting because it comes right after Locomotive, and I really like the sequencing of this, because I think Locomotive and Bluebird couldn't sound more different, and yet they have a really similar concept, which is just, I continue moving through life. And whereas Locomotive is the brash side of that, Bluebird is really Miranda being a bit more reflective. She says she's a turner, and she turns pages all the time. 34 was bad, so she just turned to 35. You know, she acknowledges, I move quickly. She says, I keep a light on in my soul and a bluebird in my heart. And that's definitely a reference not just to this sort of hopeful creature, a bluebird, maybe the somewhere over the rainbow type of bluebird, but I think in the specific Nashville world, the Bluebird Cafe is known as kind of the home of songwriting, and Miranda is saying, I keep the bluebird in my heart. I turn my pain, I turn my confusion into songs. I love the ambiguity of the chorus on how dare you love. You don't really know if Miranda Lambert is sort of in a playful and sexy way telling this guy, how dare you, comma, love, calling him her love, or if she is asking herself or telling herself, how dare you love, you know you fall too quickly. It's kind of that tension that makes the song so magical. But for me, it's the final 3 songs on the album that are definitely the highlight. I think it's a 1, 2, 3 punch at the end of this record. Tequila Does is a very Texas song. If you like Drinking Problem by Midland, I think you'll really like Tequila Does. There's a great line in the beginning where she says adios to the guys at the bar because Casamigos is taking her home tonight. And if you didn't know, Casamigos is a kind of tequila. Track Record, meanwhile, is a gorgeous stunner of a track. It's very 80s inspired. It'll make you feel like you're listening to Lord Huron or The War on Drugs. And this song uses references to racetracks all around as Miranda reflects on not just her speed, like we got on Locomotive, but the way that she can really leave people behind super quickly. I love the line, I got a track record, a past that's checkered as the floor at the diner on Main Street. I mean, the word checkered works on so many levels here. Not only is it describing the literal pattern on the floor, it also works as a reference to a checkered flag at a racetrack, and moreover, and it's working as this kind of descriptor of her past as something that is spotty and not altogether good. I love smart writing. I love puns, and I love wordplay. Don't you guys? Someone's gonna make a freaking gif of me saying, I love puns. Whatever. I am who I am. But like so many country albums, the last track is my very favorite. This is a song called Dark Bars, and wow, is it stunning. Dark Bars is your classic, I want to feel bad about myself in a bar country song, but it is delivered with such vocal clarity. I like how much the production is out of the way on this song. This is just a true blue country song. Miranda Lambert says she's watching all the drunks drown with no lifeguard. Lifeguard, another great word on this record. We got pigeon and lifeguard and checkered past. Great words on this record. But when she modulates up in the final chorus, it's a real moment. This song is gorgeous, torchy, sad, and very Miranda. Now, all that positive stuff said, I definitely have some big issues with this record, and they're pretty much all around the production. I think there are some really weird choices that are incredibly distracting on this record, and I don't think the sort of normal, scuzzy, funkier sound that Jay Joyce often brings is always that welcome. My biggest issue is just that the cymbals are too damn loud all through the whole thing. The first time I listened in headphones. It was not a good experience. I'd feel like, oh, I'm kind of getting into the the light moodiness of Settling Down, or a song like Fire Escape, and then you see like of the hi-hat constantly. I mean, there's so much loud cymbal, and it just takes you out of the moment sometimes. There's too much going on. So my recommendation, if you're listening to this, play this on speakers, play it nice and loud, where you're not worried about just kind of feeling in the moment with headphones, looking out a rainy window, you know, my natural habitat. And I already mentioned this, but some of the vocal layering on White Trash and on Pretty Biction I find very distracting. It's kind of the same effect that some of the unison singing on the Highwaymen album, and even Miranda Lambert and Little Big Town on Smoking and Drinking, that it kind of reminds me of. It feels robotic in a way. So yeah, I do think the production definitely gets in the way sometimes on this record, and that's a shame. That said, I don't think it derails the project at all. It just took me a few listens to get into, and it took me taking the headphones out and really listening to it on speakers to enjoy it a lot more. I've only listened to this album 3 full times because I got to go to a wedding all weekend in Ohio, so this review's coming a little bit earlier, and each time I have enjoyed the album more than the previous time. Right now, I'd say my score is like a 7.7 for this record, which is really good. And I look forward to continuing getting to know it. Miranda Lambert is just so interesting to follow. You know, she makes these really honest records, and there's a real messiness to her personal life and a real messiness to her music. And I'm thankful that she puts her life on paper for us to enjoy. So those are my thoughts on the record. I would love to know what you guys think of Wildcard, if you think the production gets in the way as much as I do, because sometimes I just want a country-er, simpler record. When you hear songs like Tequila Does and Dark Bars, you just kind of wish that the whole album were a little bit more open and not so kind of oppressively percussive. And yeah, that's a very Grady criticism. There's too much percussion, but sometimes there's just too much damn percussion. Just let things breathe a little more. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this record. I think it's really strong. Hit like on this video if you like it. Share your thoughts in the comments down below. And happy listening, guys. Bye.